and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode. You know, all of these videos that I do are practically not scripted at all. I may have a few notes here and there, and I may have like the text, like the Bible right here that I look at, or any other books that I do, but for the most part, this is a pure spiritual voltage that I try to give to the people. And just wanting to give really the true communion of the heart. So, with that being said, today I want to talk about what happens when you feel abandoned by God and what causes you to feel abandoned by God, and just what that feeling is like and how you can heal from it and how you can understand that sometimes life just really isn't fair. But I also want to start off with a verse from John 10:34, and it says, Jesus answered them, "Is it not written in your law that I said, ye are gods?" And then in Psalms 82:6, it actually says that I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. So, what exactly does that mean? It means that you are really never abandoned by God. You only think you are. God is always with you, and you are always with God, whether you are aware of it or not. The thing is that unless you're soulless, you're not with God. But the world is a stage, right? And this is another video I've done in the past, but the world is a stage. And on that stage is qualities of godliness and demonic entities and qualities. And these qualities of godliness are highly spiritual light beings, right? Think about like in Star Wars, how Yoda comes and Obi-Wan comes to see Luke at the end of the sixth Star Wars film, where they are just beings of pure light at this point, and they are still with the Force, and they are still with the universe, but not in the way that they used to be. And that's really what life is all about. It's that the universe isn't asking you, and God isn't asking you to change who you are necessarily. God is asking you to trust in the ascension and spiritual process in which you refine your spiritual self through physical activities or physical alterations and implications. And in that handling and accepting of those physical circumstances, you actually transmute your spiritual energy into something higher, in which you learn something different from it. Now, I remember a few times on my spiritual journey, well, there was a lot of times really, where I felt as if I was abandoned by God. But I also, for most of my life, up until about 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't really want to be near God. At least I didn't think so. I was very skeptical and angry, I guess you could say, about God. And I was very angry at what I feel as though my circumstances was, because coming from narcissistic abuse and coming from narcissistic relationships primarily, I had to relearn a lot of what I had learned. And I had to understand that this kind of brain fog that I had coming into relationships and like exiting these narcissistic relationships really like put me in a loop, because I couldn't think straight, which is why I think meditation is so important for anybody really, especially people that are dealing with narcissistic abuse, meditation is going to be one of your biggest faculties and tools to level up and to heal from those painful feelings and areas of your life, because meditation is a way to naturally engage your nervous system by calming it. And it's really only when you can calm your nervous system is when you can see things really clearly. Because if you're always in a fight or flight mode, you're never going to be able to see the bigger picture of what's actually going on. And this kind of like foggy, fuzzy feeling that I got after leaving these narcissistic relationships, and even being in it, like you lose yourself, right? You lose like your sense of who you are, because like everything that happens is just so jumbled, and like the timelines are just so out of whack, and like you can't really think clearly about when was when and what was what and how was how, because the narcissists try to twist all of your sense of reality in order to bend and control you, specifically bend and control your will to live. And if you can control your will to live, then that's when you become and have, you don't possess, but you have this quality of godliness, which I really think is what Jesus was speaking to here, is that ye are gods. And really what that is saying is that you have more power and more determination and ability to create with the universe than you could possibly imagine. But because society has completely sedated you, you believe that a lot of the things that you think are normal are not. And I'm not really saying like this audience specifically. I'm just saying that the proclivity of and the torrent of these kinds of feelings of absence when you're on the spiritual path is something that you also need to let go of, which is very confusing, right? Because like, how can you let go of something that you feel is already absent in the first place? But that's exactly that feeling of lack is what is holding you back, which leads me to my next point, is that you are the hardest obstacle to overcome any kind of difficulty in life. You, like, have you ever tried to really retrain yourself and like rediscipline yourself? Like really, it can be very challenging because you're so used to a certain kind of mode of being, and you're used to certain people in your life or certain relationships or certain kinds of eating habits or diet or exercise, whatever it is. And when you like, when somebody else is there to kind of like help you navigate, it's a little bit more like you feel with something, right? Like you feel more connection to the world sometimes, which is completely okay and completely fine, because like relationships and connection is most tremendously valuable. But maybe I should say, however, if you cannot overcome yourself, then you're never going to have that quality of godliness. That's what it means. That's what it means to be godly, have that quality of godliness, is to realize that you have some things that are in your control and you have some things that are not in your control. You have some things that are capable of, like, you can be capable of change, and you have some things that are not capable of change right now. That's the way you need to think about it. That's the mentality that you need to have on the spiritual journey, is that it's just not like that right now, or it's not like that in this moment. Because the moment really is all that you have. And all we can really know for sure is that when you are willing to tell yourself no, that is like the biggest sign of strength and self respect that you can give yourself, is being able to say no to yourself. And when you feel as though God abandoned you, you feel as though God told you no to some degree. And that can be kind of difficult to swallow, because you're like, well, if God's telling me no, then it must be wrong, but I want it so much. And it's like, yeah, you can want the things. You can want a lot of things. But just because you want something doesn't mean that's what you need right now, right? And sometimes when you need something, it isn't what you want. And so feeling abandoned by God in these kinds of times of, it's really a sense of denial, and it's a sense of escape, when really you just don't fear God. That's what I think it comes down to, is that you don't fear the Most High. And you don't exactly fear judgment from God, which, if you've ever encountered God on your own time, you know that sometimes God's judgment can be a really big slap in the face, and other times it can be the most happy, unsuspected surprise that you've ever experienced. And sometimes you get exactly what you want when you don't need it most. And sometimes you get what you need when you don't want it most. And that's really what this godliness is about, is understanding the parable and the parameters of godliness. So, with that being said, I hope this message was useful. And if you ever have questions, please email me, or just any kind of input. Please email me at regalchange@gmail.com. If you also want to check out my website, it's realchange.com. And I look forward to hearing your comments and your likes and your subscribes. So thank you very much, and peace be with you.